Hi, welcome back to Harmonize Your Life Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast with your host, Dr.Toni G. Alvarado. I am so excited to welcome you to the month of November and to our November podcast conversations. This month, I'm very, very excited because the topic or the theme for our November conversations is the topic of or the subject of intentional self-care. That's right. We're going to be talking about intentional self-care. And I'm very excited because our guests that are going to be in the podcast studio with me this month are two women who I have had the privilege of walking with and coaching this year, particularly 2023, in the area of intentional self-care. I believe that you're going to be blessed by these conversations. You will grow, you'll be inspired, you'll be motivated as we move further and further into the year 2023, as we close out the year 2023 and move into the year 2024. And so we'll be right back with our guests right after this. Well, I am so excited to introduce to you all and present to others um, a dear, fabulous boss woman uh, here in the studio, who's in the studio with me on today in the person of Tamara M. Brown, an entertainment executive. Tamara says of herself, she still does cartwheels in the park, a lifelong cheerleader, and her greatest endeavor is to live a life of purpose, balance, and joy. In her professional capacity, Tamara works as the Chief Operations Officer of the Think Common Entertainment. Her role is to ensure the continuity and success of the team, brand, marketing, business operations, and social impact efforts for the multi-hyphenate, multi-awarded artist professionally known as Common. There's a little funny story behind that. And I'll share that in a minute. And so over a decade, Tamara began working with the artists in Chicago as an executive director of Common Ground Foundation, founded by Common and his mother, Dr. Mahalia Hines. While overseeing the nonprofit, Tamara also began consulting Common's entertainment firm, which soon required her full-time focus. Tamara relocated to Los Angeles and began to work as the COO. In 2022, she co-founded Free to Dream, the social impact arm of their entertainment firm, which encapsulates all their work in education, justice, reform, and wellness. In 2019, Tamara and Common, in partnership with New Life Church and Distinctive Schools, opened the Art in Motion, the only tuition-free creative arts charter school located in Chicago's South Side. The school currently serves more than 600 students, grades 7 through 11, which will grow to 1,100 seats by the fall of 2025. As a former business owner of T. Brown Publishing, for more than 12 years, Tamara spearheaded the launch of multiple publications to achieve the causes of nonprofit organizations, including Urban Influence Magazine, which holds a place in history as the first national and international newsstand magazine of the National Urban League. Tamara earned an undergraduate degree in journalism and mass communication from the University of Iowa, and later attended DePaul University for graduate studies. She's a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and she currently resides in Charlotte, North Carolina. As I stated in my introductory comments today in my intro to this podcast episode, Tamara has been a part of my in the Harmonize Your Life intentional self-care program this year in the year 2023, and I have just been honored to coach her this year and to walk alongside her this year in this area of intentional self-care. And so I asked her to come on and to share her experience and talk to us and help us in this area of intentional self-care. Welcome, Tamara.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm honored to be here. And it's been a wonderful journey. And so I'm excited to talk about it.
I am too. I'm excited, and I appreciate um this opportunity for us to talk. You know how much I admire you and the work that you do. And funny story, you all. So my son is a musician, and so I when Tamara told me the artist that she works for, I went to my son and I said, "Do you all know an artist named Common?" And my son was like, "Mom, you don't know Common? What? Who do you know that knows Common?" And when I told him that I was coaching the his executive director, his chief operations officer, my son was like really, really, really wilding out and fangirling and all that, fanboy and fangirling. And so, and I went back to her and I said, "Girl, I need to come into the 21st century with these artists and stuff. My kids know more than what I know." But anyway,
yes,
for being on the podcast with us today.
Thank you again for having me. Yeah, we're gonna have to get your son connected.
Yes, please. He's gonna love that. He's gonna love that. All right. So Tamara, I asked you to come on the podcast to talk about the whole idea of intentional self-care. And you've been in a journey this year. We've been walking together this year through the intentional self-care program that I'm leading. And I want you to just kind of share some of your journey, your wellness journey with us, and what led you to come into the program with me this year.
Yes, awesome. So, well, I'll start with what led me to come into the program. The timing was just amazing when the invitation or the newsletter popped up, because I've been working out with a personal trainer in terms of my exercise. We were doing 2 days a week, and then I would do yoga in our women's yoga class. And I knew that I wanted to do more. The backstory is that I've worked with personal trainers probably easily for 10 years, right? And this is the cycle. I'll start working with the trainer, and then I'll say, okay, my form is right. Okay, I know the reps. I know how to use the machines. And then I'll stop working with the trainer, right? And within about 30 days, I stopped working out altogether. And then I start back up. I said, okay, I got to do it again. So I finally, by the fourth time, and when I relocated to Charlotte, when I left Los Angeles, that was my cycle. When I came to Charlotte, I got with an amazing trainer who I'm still with. And I just really had to come to terms that I need that additional support. There are some people like you who get up every day. We see you on social media and wherever you are in the world, literally across the globe, you're still getting it in. Well, I'm just gonna be honest, that's not my ministry. If somebody's not calling me, if she's not like, I'll be here at 8 a.m., chances are less that I'll get it done. I came to terms with that as it relates to exercise. Well, there's other things that I wanted to do as well in terms of I live a more holistic life. At least I try to. So staying with my vitamins and different herbs and just different things that I was doing, but not consistent. Right. And that was the key. It's like I have access to, even the work environment that I live in, that I work in. so blessed that our culture is about wellness, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And you know, our boss is an amazing example of that in his own life, his discipline, his eating. So we're all exposed to and have access to all these modalities, but I wasn't being consistent.
Okay. Okay.
And I was very honest with myself about it. So at the top of the year, it was sort of like a New Year's resolution, but I was a little bit nervous about going on record and saying, this is what I'm going to do. Because I don't really love New Year's resolutions. Anyway, long story short, the email popped up. I promise you it was the angels. It came just at the time that I was processing, you can do better. Like you really can do better. But I accepted the invitation, and I don't know how quickly everybody else joined, but I joined when I saw the like literally right then and there, because I said this is exactly what I'm looking for. It's a community. I'm looking for accountability, and that's exactly what it gave me. And so we'll get into how I've improved. That's how it started. I knew I needed a little bit more.
Okay. Okay. And so, one of the common things that I heard, not just with you, but with just about every woman that's in the program, was the idea of consistency. That I would start, I would stop, I would start, I would stop, and of course I understand that. And believe it or not, as much as I, work out or as serious as I am about my health and wellness, consistency is something that I have to still work at. It doesn't just happen, because life happens and things come up, and sometimes you just don't feel like it, period. You want to eat that cake. You want to, not eat healthy. You want to sleep in. You just want to do all the things that are not the best thing for you. But that idea of consistency was a theme that kind of ran through our group. Almost every woman that came had that as a goal. So let me ask you this. What do you think is one of the issues? Why do you think we struggle with consistency as women?
Well, one thing I'll answer that question, but one thing I also want to say about the group, which is a wonderful group. Shout out to our self-care group. One of the values of being in the group is that you feel better about, your struggles, and just knowing that other sisters are going through similar, dynamics with that consistency and that intentionality. It does not that you want to just like, oh, let's just all be in this together and not be consistent, but you do feel it takes a little pressure off of you.
Not alone.
And you're not alone, and you're not kind of like hard on yourself. Especially, I would say, for a typical type A personality, such as myself, where in every other area, it's like you're on it, on it, on it, on it, on it. When there is an area that is a gap, or you're lacking, or not feeling like you're doing your best, you can tend to be really hard on yourself. And so the group is just, all of it is just so encouraging. And then the one-on-one coaching, especially when we can kind of like get into it, because in most cases there are, issues behind it. And so to answer your question about, just in my observation, in my opinion, as it relates to Black women in our group, and then even just in my own village, I think that it is our nature to be givers and concerned and doing a lot for everyone else. So it's not that it's always that our self-care is on the back burner in terms of in our minds, but in your span of 24 hours, right? You run out of time, and then you run out of energy. And then if you add travel to it, or kids and the spouse and all the things, it just, unless you are absolutely intentional, it's so easy to fall off.
Yeah.
And I know some people say, oh, we don't put ourselves first. That's never been my trouble. You know what I mean? I make time for myself, but doing this type of work, it's a different muscle. It's not the same as I make time to go shopping. It's not the same as I make time to, to chat, or I make time to be on social media. This is a different muscle. And I just think that we haven't, as a community, really talked about it and highlighted and encouraged it in the way, for example, that you're doing in this program.
Wow. Yeah, you're right. And it is different. And I don't know why it's different, but it is. It's a different muscle. I
Yeah,
like
why? I don't know.
it's
Yeah.
a different muscle. And it could be because sometimes we've been socialized to think that, you know, some people have issue with the whole idea of self-care because I said this to someone the other day that particularly women of faith, is really hard because we think self-care is selfish. And so, of course, as Christians and women of faith, we're taught to serve, which we do, and all of that, but we've not really been taught and socialized to think of ourselves first, which is ironic to me because the Bible says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And which says to me, we really can't love our neighbor if we don't love ourselves. But self-love and self-care has not been a part of the ethos of our thinking. It hasn't been a part of our culture a lot of times, and certainly not a part of our theology in the way we approach our faith walk or our relationship with God. So oftentimes we feel, because and we attach some spiritual value to not taking care of ourselves, like, sacrificing or whatever. And I don't think that's what God mean at all when he talks to us about picking up our cross and all that. I believe that God wants us to be good stewards of our body, our mind, our spirit, so that we can pick up those crosses. Because how can even you talk about the metaphor of picking up a cross, well, you can't even carry a cross if you're not able to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I would add to it that, and I found that in our group to be a pretty consistent theme. I think I might be a little bit of an outlier in that regard because I was raised in an environment with a mother who truly believed in self-care and taking time for herself. And I remember her cell phone. I remember one day coming and her cell phone lit up and it said, "Hello, beautiful." And I said, "What is this?" She said, "That's how I greet myself." Of course it is, because that's just who she was. So I feel like there's also a percentage of us, a group of us, that don't necessarily feel like it's because we shouldn't take care of ourselves. It's because we were raised in this environment of give, give, give. I think it's a discipline component as well. Like even when you know to do it, to make space for yourself, how important it is to balance your wellness against the work that you give. There is a level of discipline that's required, that there's just no two ways about it.
Yeah, you're right. And it does. It requires discipline. It requires commitment. It requires fortitude, boundaries, all the things that in order to be intentional. And I think that's the whole idea of intentional self-care is that discipline. I think we could call it disciplined self-care, because I do think that we kind of haphazardly sometimes take care of ourselves. We do some pampering principles and things and activities, but to have a lifestyle of self-care
absolutely
requires intentionality and discipline. I agree with you.
And it also requires, I think, helping others understand your commitment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you set those boundaries, and these are the things that are important. And this is the time that I need, et cetera. And the more we do it, the more everyone realizes that the world's going to be all right. And if I'm offline for this hour and a half every day, it's fine. Because when I come back, I'm on it. Everything's going to get done. If I have to shut down at 6:45 p.m. for my 7 p.m. yoga class, that's just the time that I have to shut down. And eventually people start to not only respect it, but I can remember times where, I'm on a call or doing something and my assistant will text me and be like, "Isn't it time for yoga?" I'm like, "Yes, it is. Thank you. Let me hang up."
So they don't disrespect it. They begin to expect it.
Expect it and support you. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're very busy. You're COO of a major artist. You travel a lot, and there are times when your schedule is not the same every day.
Correct.
Okay. And you travel quite a bit. I mean, I would say you may be bi-coastal in a lot of ways because you do spend a lot of time on the West Coast with in LA, and then you live in Charlotte. And then there are other times. I know one day I called you, text you or whatever, and you were like, "I'm on the French Riviera." I'm like, "Girl, where are you?" All right. So yeah, so I know that you because you're so busy. What has been this year some of the strategies that you've learned in order to maintain and retain the things that we're talking about in the program as it relates to sacred self-care, intentional self-care, uh, setting boundaries, fitness, the whole gamut, not just fitness, but healthy eating, all those things. So resting, recreation, relationships, all those things. So what are some of the strategies that you've learned this year that you don't mind sharing?
Well, there's two that I would highlight in particular, and these came during our one-on-one sessions, and where we kind of got to really dig into what is it that is holding me back or kind of causing me to not be consistent. And I don't want to say I was making excuses, but to me, they were legitimate like reasons, right? And you were pushing me a little bit harder. So one of them was just as you said, the time. Well, my schedule. So I may have a flight, I may have an early morning flight or an overnight flight or et cetera. And what you broke down and what we really started to understand is wellness and fitness doesn't have to fit a particular mold, right? So although when I work out with my trainer, I get in a solid 50 minutes plus our stretching, etc. What we started talking through was, okay, well, what if it's not a full 50 minutes? You were like, Tamara, that still counts. If you can do 20 minutes, if you can do 15 minutes, if you can go for a walk instead of a whole full Peloton ride, maybe this morning is just not that, but it doesn't mean you can't do something. And so when I started thinking about that, I was like, wow, where there's rarely a time where I couldn't do 15 minutes, right? Or even 10 minutes, which then once you start, you look up and you've done 20, right? So I remember one of the challenges you gave me, we were going through my schedule, and whatever day it was, let's say it was Thursday, I was like, well, I have a flight. My pickup is at 9:00 on Thursday. And you said, well, my pickup is at 7:00 on Thursday. And you were like, so I'm still going to work out in the morning. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I could. And you were like, just get up and go for a walk or get up and do something. And the combination of, that light coming on and just saying it doesn't have to be this full power workout to still moving your body. That sort of freed me up. And then, before the flight that morning, and then I felt bad. I was like, now Toni is up at 5 in the morning. And I get a couple extra hours of sleep. The least I could do is get up at 7 and get this walk in. But I did. And that was one of the first times I did it. And it was like, I just went out and did a 20-minute walk, came back in and got started with my day. My pickup were right on time and carried on. But I felt so good that I had done something that day and moved my body, especially because I was getting ready for probably a 4-hour flight. So you're going to just be sitting. So it was not just good, it was necessary, right? So
and see what happens is, Tam, and we've talked about this in our one-on-ones, but I want to say this here. And we talked about it in the group as well. what we tend to do is it's either all or nothing proposition for most people. So if I can't work out a whole 30 minutes or a whole hour or a whole 45 minutes, I don't do anything.
Right.
Something is better than nothing. And when I got that revelation, that was one of the things that helped me become consistent.
Yeah. That was a game change for me.
It was, I'm telling you, that's one of the things.
I didn't even realize how, I mean, such common sense, but I didn't even realize how I was allowing time or the reason or the excuse of time to hold me back so much. It was like, you just blew that right out. You definitely have 10 minutes. You definitely have 15 minutes. So just do something, right? And so that was one strategy, and that has helped me. I still do it when I'm when I'm going through the schedule with my trainer, because by the way, we're up to 4 days a week.
Oh, good.
Yes. And
when you were in the program, how many days were you doing with your trainer?
2.
And now you're up to 4.
Now up to 4 days a week with her. And
look at that.
If there's a day that, just based on our schedules and travel or whatever, I'll say, okay, this one I'll do on my own, and then I will screenshot the workout from my phone and send it to you. So I'm still getting that accountability, even if I'm not working out with her.
Okay.
So that's one of my strategies, is to not let the time hold me back. I can still get in something. And then the second was, this is the funny story that we shared. I was not being consistent with my vitamins and my supplements and, milk thistle and all the things that I, want to take. And I would say, again, using the sort of explanation of travel, well, once I'm on the road, I don't have everything that I need and blah, blah, blah. And when I tell you, I think you even said, like, is there no way to just have a separate, setup that's just for travel? And I was like, well, sure. So I go on Amazon and I buy this little travel pack for, I guess it's for people who take, medicine and stuff like that. But I used it for all my vitamins. And so I pulled it together, and it's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, put the little pack together. And I was just so proud of myself. And I came to one of the classes and I was like, I found a solution. It's this, and it was like $10 on Amazon, right? But it was literally just the notion was separate, put a pack together. Your lifestyle, that you're going to travel, and never take it out. It just stays in the carry-on bag. I take it out to make sure I have everything that I need, drop it in. So again, just taking, and so from a strategy perspective, what I would say is, regardless of what your tools are, it's make it as easy for yourself as possible.
Make it as easy. That's why that was the whole idea of harmonize your life, not my life. Harmonize your life. Look at the components of your life, and that's what we do in the program. We look at individual, even though we have group sessions. The group sessions are mainly around the principles of self-care, the homework that I give you all, the readings and things, and the encouragement that we give each other in the group sessions. But the individual's coaching is about harmonizing your life, looking at the components of your life, the dynamics of your life, and then seeing, how do I make it all fit? Which is why I don't use the word balance anymore, because balance is not a sustainable model. Harmony is a more sustainable model. You might balance for a minute, but balance requires tension, and harmony is a more relaxed flow of just seeing, okay, what do I need here? What do I need there? And putting those components together and being flexible to make the adjustments where need to be made.
Sure.
Right? Like you said, my workout with my trainer is different than when I work. It's same with me. My workout with my trainer is not the same as when I'm on the road, because I'm not going to, I don't have the time, the literal time to work out like that. Plus, I'm not going to push myself like he would. You know, he's going to push me out of my comfort zone and make me lift more weight than I want to lift, that kind of thing. And then it's just not safe sometimes to lift. If you're weightlifting, it's not safe to lift certain amount of weight by yourself without someone in the room to spot you or whatever, to make sure your form and everything is correct, because you don't hurt yourself.
Right.
But even with the eating and the resting and all the other aspects, my financial life, every aspect of life, we got to look at what are the dynamics of our lives, and then how does that fit? And that's what the whole idea of the program is about. And so you've done that so well.
You know what I also think is that there is a ripple effect that happens also. And so when you start in one area, for me, I was specifically in the program starting with the exercise. I wanted to be more consistent with exercise. I wanted to keep it up. But then once you start seeing the progress and feeling great about yourself, and then also being in the group and you're hearing stories and different things that other people are working on, which is a little bit different, then it encourages you to look at this area, then look at this area. And so when I say the ripple effect, it's like the eating and the managing finances and sleeping and setting boundaries. It all starts to come together when you switch. It's like you turn, your mindset switches into this intentional self-care. And then you start thinking about all the ways to care for yourself better. You know, it's like, for me, I was thinking in January when I started, I did say this is about exercise. But now in November, which I can't believe it's November already, it's about total well-being. You know, because it all started to just kind of come together in harmony, fortunately. But even along the way, when it wasn't harmonized at first, it was a little wonky. Focusing on yourself makes you start to really look at and examine all these other areas that you may not have started off. That was the area or that was the intention, but then you start to see the gaps, right? Because if you really are getting in there and you really want full harmony, then you have to address all these other areas.
Yeah.
And the reading was good with that as well.
Okay. Yeah. So our readings, so I was going to ask you to talk about some of the other aspects of the program that you found beneficial.
Well, I loved you'll laugh at this. I also love just the good conversations that we would have in our groups. So there was one conversation about Black Girl Magic, and Mel and I, another member of the group, had a particular point of view, and we were fiercely protecting the words and the notion of Black Girl Magic. But it just was so good to have that exchange,
robust conversation,
a robust conversation. It was so much love and just, you know, women who bring different perspectives, bring different experiences and lives from, you know, marriage and work and all different. I mean, such a cross section of amazing Black women. But it just made the conversation so good and so rich. And I particularly love that as one of our group sessions.
Yeah, you was on fire that night.
Yeah, we worked up. We worked up about that. Listen, we all our Black Girl Magic
play that night.
Yes.
That's good. Yes. That's good. Yes. So, all right. So you enjoyed those dynamics. And what about the readings? What did you find?
Yeah, the readings were, so for me, I did most of my readings on flights. That was sort of the time, even listen to the podcast as well. I would put them all in the same group. So it gave me a minute in the midst of whatever I was either on my way to or coming from. It gave me a moment to pause. And I think it was just constant reminders.
Yeah.
And so it's similar to when someone says, I think the saying is, when you do something for 21 days, it becomes a habit. Well, I think just think about if you are reading something every month that's pouring into you, that's reminding you to pour into yourself. There is either two books between your book and Sacred Principles then there's podcasts, then there's group conversations. It's at least 4 to 5 touch points every month that's reminding you that you matter, that you are enough. Focus on yourself, be intentional, discipline, you can do it. And then on top of it, honestly, having you as an example because you're actively doing it. So some of what we learned wasn't just even in the readings and all, it was watching, right? And seeing your lifestyle. So imagine having that, like I said, those 5 touch points a month, it starts to sink in. You know what I mean? You start to believe it. And so the readings were great reminders, and I think they were complementary to the whole program. And again, in my case, it wasn't that it was information I didn't know. That's the thing. And I mean, honestly, it wasn't so there were a few moments that were, revelatory, but for the most part, this is what we know.
Right.
But it's just
but
not
often we don't do what we know.
We just don't do it.
And we say that when you know better, you do better, but that's not necessarily true.
Yeah, you do better, with a little help.
Support, what we call it, SEA, support, encouragement, and accountability. Yes. Wow. So has your self-care board of directors grown since you've been in the program?
Well, it definitely has. I consider you definitely on my board of directors. I would say that the first shift, though, and the first role on that board of directors really had to come from me.
Yes.
And I just had to make some decisions, and I just had to be disciplined. And also, it's like a part of me said, okay.
And you know what? Hold that thought for 1 second, because I want to make sure those that are listening that may not know what we're talking about when I say self-care board of directors. I want to define for our audience what the self-care board of directors is. So in my book, for those of you who are listening, Tamara knows this, but in my book, I talk about one chapter, developing your self-care board of directors. And your board of directors are the people it's like a board, like any board of directors, that oversee the maintenance and the management of an organization, that support that organization, whether it's financial or with advice or whatever. So I proffer that in order to harmonize our lives, we need to create a self-care board of directors. And the chair of that board is always me. I'm the chair of the board because it's my life and I'm responsible for my life. But then that also includes other professionals like medical professionals, mental health therapists, nutritionists, whatever you need. So for me, that includes my trainer, my chiropractor. It includes the girl that does my masseuse. She does. I get a facial and a massage once a month. And so she's on my board. My dentist is on my board. My doctor, my primary care physician is on that board. My endocrinologist, because I manage a thyroid condition, she's on that board. And so of course, my trainer, spiritual directors, my friends, healthy friends, right? And I don't mean just physically healthy. I mean people who are mature that can speak into my life. Those people make up us, family members, my husband and my children, because we're flowing in that same vein. They're on my self-care board of directors. They ensure, they encourage, they support, they give information, they hold me accountable, and all the things that help me to be whole, spirit, soul, and body. So I want to explain that for those that may not know that are listening. So Tam, how has your board grown since you've been in the program?
So 2 ways. One, my board changed, right? And I think we have to talk about that as well. Sometimes we have assigned board seats to individuals that maybe don't need to have board seats, right? They can still be in your village and still be in your circle, but not necessarily board seats. So once I became more intentional about it and not just like, oh, this is just sort of happening or these relationships exist, et cetera, once I became truly intentional, I was like, oh, well, let me assess the board differently and communicate with and interact with friends and associates accordingly. So the first thing is I shifted the board. The second thing is one area for me was eating, right? And cooking and wanting to be plant-based and healthy eating. And that was another area that I was challenged with, again, with travel, et cetera. Eating on the road is still tough, even though it's come a long way in the last 10 years, but still plant-based eating is not easy when you're traveling.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I had tried a couple of times when I moved to Charlotte was to have a chef. And I wanted either in-home meals, the delivery service, or to have someone come in and help prepare meals. And when I lived in Los Angeles, I had an absolutely amazing chef, and she came in once a week, sometimes twice a week, and all of that together, that was my system, right? Between the trainer and my chef, et cetera. So I had kind of given up in Charlotte. I was like, well, Charlotte's not LA, and I'm not gonna find the person. And again, in one of our one-on-one sessions, you were like, well, let's just make that homework and just try again. So I was like, well, okay, sure. I'll just try again. And lo and behold, maybe that next day or 2 days later, I'm online. And I promise you, these options were not there before. I'm telling you, I had gone through 2 different chefs and another food service. It magically appeared after you said try.
I think because you were being intentional, it appeared.
Okay, so let's put a pin in it, because there's something to be said about how the universe conspires with you, right? When you are being intentional. So I looked again, and there it was. And so now I have a chef who comes in every Wednesday, and we've gotten into a good rhythm, and he makes proper meals. So it's helping regulate, my blood sugar, it's my energy, making a difference in my workouts. Because sometimes, my trainer would say, well, what did you eat last night? Because these mountain climbers shouldn't be this difficult for you today. And that was another area that needed to be consistent and need to be work on was the food. So now that I have the chef, it's impacted my my workouts and all the things. So he is now a member of my board of directors, and that was an open seat that I really needed to fill, was figuring out the food.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm gonna play the devil's advocate for a minute here and ask you this, because there may be someone listening that say, I can afford a chef, but I want to eat healthy. So what would you say to that woman?
So I would say the same thing that my chef has said to me, and multiple people say to me. The decision is won or lost in the grocery store. It really is. Now, we're not talking about when you go out to dinner and what you order, but by and large, we win or lose in the grocery store. Because if you don't bring it into your house, you don't have it to eat.
Right.
And I can't tell you the times that I have been down an aisle and it's a struggle to win. Like, I'm just not bringing cookies into the house. I just am not.
If you bring it around you, you will eat it.
You will eat it.
Yeah.
You will eat it. And also primarily shop the perimeter of the grocery store. You should get most of your nutrition and most of your food from the produce section, whether it's the frozen foods, et cetera. But when I learned that, shop the perimeter, between that, and going into the grocery store saying, I'm going to win, I'm literally going to win today. That helps make a difference. So what you have in your house.
Store. I love that. Yeah. I'm gonna borrow that. You'll hear that again.
Yes. It's true.
My thing is weight is lost in the kitchen. And another nutritionist that I had on the podcast, she said, Risha Taylor, she said, when we eat, we're either we're doing one or two things. We either defeating disease or we're fighting disease.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got that revelation, I was like, oh no. Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, so I'm being, you've been such a star pupil in this program. I mean, really, you have really embraced the idea of intentional self-care. You really embody why I started this this ministry. I'm gonna call it ministry because
It
that's what
is a ministry. And
um,
I said that to you. It is a ministry because, someone might look at my life and just assume that, well, you have access to all these things, you just are doing it. But it's not the case. You can have access, you can have knowledge, but if you don't have that discipline, and that's a lot of what the program helped me with, was just some accountability and some common sense, changes and adjustments, and a community of other women to say, I'm not the only one, out here who can do better. Like,
mhm.
what I mean? It was literally that's how.
And the only person you need to the only person you need to do better than is the you of yesterday.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You're
Sure.
not competing against me. You're not competing against any other woman in the program. You're just being a better version of yourself
Mhm.
every day.
And
So
we deserve it. And
and
we
you
deserve it. And we
and
can give it to ourselves.
we
Yeah.
deserve because sacred self-care says, I deserve it. I'm worthy of taking care of the gift that I am.
Mm-hmm,
Because I
mm-hmm.
am a gift to
Yeah.
the body of Christ. I'm a gift to the world. I'm a gift to my family. I'm a gift wherever I go. And who wants a torn up, beat up, tattered up gift? No
Right.
one.
Yeah. But
No.
also, Dr. Toni, like, there is just also a space for support. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Even when you say all those things and you have all these affirmations and you know it, the same cycle that I was in working out with personal trainers, where, once I stopped with the trainer, before I knew it, I stopped working out altogether. This program is invaluable because we don't we don't have coaches for that. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't necessarily have an individual who will take time with every single person in the group and do a one-on-one and delve into, let me help Tamara get her vitamins straight. Like, that's a level of high touch and care and concern that we don't normally have. That's not a common program that you can just sign up for, right?
Right. Right.
So
Thank you.
it's having the right thought process, yes, and saying we deserve it, and all the affirmations, but having that support system really does help.
It does. It matters.
It
It
matters.
matters. Support matters.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Tamara, I want people to know where they can follow you. I know you're not really big on social media,
I
but
know I should.
I'm talking with Tamara Brown. Those of you that are listening or watching us on YouTube. And if you're not on YouTube, I want to invite you to go to my YouTube channel at Dr. Toni G. Alvarado and subscribe now to the YouTube channel so that you can watch these podcast episodes and share them with others. And when conversations like this, when you subscribe to my channel, we go up in the analytics and we won't be so far down in Google searches. And when people are looking for information, inspiration, motivation around these things, self-care, health, wellness, fitness, for us as women of color, then we have these conversations that are cataloged there. This is a resource that we are offering to the community, and it doesn't cost you anything. Just subscribe and share these conversations. So I thank you, Tamara. And Tamara is the COO, you heard me say it earlier, of the Think Common Entertainment Group. She is the COO for the artist known as Common, and she is the one that makes it all happen. She is the one. She's the girl. She's that girl. All right. And so I want you to know that if you were looking for her on Facebook, you can find her at Tamara M. Brown on Facebook or on Instagram at Tamara Brown 2020. She has been our dialogue partner for 2010. I'm sorry, I said 2020, but I'm scrolling 2010. Tamara Brown 2010 on Instagram. For those of you that are listening, and if you're on YouTube, then you see her IG handle scrolling across the screen right now. I want to just let those of you that are just coming on or may not know what you're listening to or watching, let you know that you are listening to the Harmonize Your Life Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast. You can find us on Apple, Anchor, Apple, Google, Spotify, mainly Spotify, that is where we are. And then it shoots it out to all these other platforms. On YouTube, we're at Toni G. Alvarado on YouTube. I also want you to know you can go to my website if you're interested in applying for the intentional self-care program. You can go there to my website, go to the self-care network page on my website at drtonialvarado.com. Email us there, or you can email me directly at hello@drtonialvarado.com, and we will get you the information on what you need to do to be a part of this program for 2024. Tamara is a part of the 2023 cohort, and we're getting ready for our 2024 cohort. And if you're interested in being a part of the intentional self-care program, please email me at hello@drtonialvarado.com, and we will get that information over to you so you can be just like Tamara this time next year. Mm-hmm. All right? You can have yourself all the way together.
All the way together, 4 days a week.
Yeah.
On the road.
Yeah,
Keep going. Yes.
That's right. You can become consistent. You can become intentional. You can get the support, encouragement, and accountability that you need in order to harmonize your life and live an intentional life of fitness, self-care, health, and wellness. All right, Tamara, I'm going to ask you to just give one last word of encouragement as we prepare to sign off.
Yes. Well, I would just say that I started off thinking that this was one area, but it turned into impacting and changing my lifestyle, literally. And so it's worth it.
All right. You heard her say it. She started out in one area, but now she is harmonizing her whole life. And you can do the same. All right. And you are worth it. It's worth it. 1,000%. And you are worth it. Thank you again, Tamara, for coming on and doing with us. I love you so much. I'll see you in your individual coaching session and in our group session this month, in the month of November. All right.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
You too. All right. See you all next week for another intriguing podcast conversation on Harmonize Your Life, Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast with your host, Dr. Toni G. Alvarado. We'll see you soon.